So, Superman needs no introduction. The Man of Steel has been around for more than 85 years, and his story has been told and retold countless times in every format imaginable. However, back in 1938, no one had ever heard of Superman. National Publications, which would later become DC Comics, was desperately searching for features to publish in its new anthology series called Action Comics. Meanwhile, two high school friends from Cleveland named Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster had been pitching their idea for a comic strip called Superman to different publications and had been turned down a lot. So, 13 pages and $130 later, the deal was done, and Superman was the lead story in Action Comics #1. Spoiler alert, they managed to sell a few. So, we all know that Superman fights for truth and justice, but what if he didn't? That's an idea that DC Comics has explored quite a few times. I'm Jay from Fancy Teeth, and some of you may remember me from such comicstorian videos as 5 Truly Evil Hulks. To my surprise, that video did pretty well, and I really enjoyed making it. So I'm back to bring you my list of the top 5 evil versions of Superman. Number 5. Superman Red Sun. What if Superman didn't fight for the American way? What if he instead fought for the Russian way? This was the central conceit behind Mark Millar's 2003 miniseries Superman Red Sun, which gave us a glimpse into an alternate world where Kal-El landed in Soviet Russia and, as a result, was raised with communist values. Now, I may have grown up in Cold War America, bombarded by anti-communist propaganda, but I still know that all communists can't be automatically evil, and this version of Superman wasn't evil either, at first anyway. He even flew over to Metropolis and saved the city when Russia's Sputnik 2 crashed into the United States. Kal-El thrived in Stalin's Russia and eventually became dictator of the Soviet Union after the leader's death, and later ruled most of the world, even going so far as to dictate the specific areas where new children would be born. Superman as a dictator. Put a pin in that, because it's an idea that we'll come back to again. Taking the idea of Superman as a beacon of freedom and flipping it on its head leads to some intriguing explorations of the Man from Krypton. In addition to that, Red Sun turns a few other DC staples on their head. Batman is an anti-Soviet vigilante, while Lex Luthor becomes the president of the United States. So, was this Superman truly evil? I would say no. He was just misguided, but he did do some pretty evil things, though. Still, this story is way too interesting to be left off the list. I won't spoil the ending, but it's one of my favorite Superman stories, and I highly recommend it. Number 4. Ultraman. Created by Gardner Fox and Mike Sekowsky, Ultraman was introduced in Justice League of America number 29 in 1964 as a Kryptonian from an alternate universe. During his voyage to Earth, he encountered some kryptonite, but unlike Superman, it didn't make Ultraman weaker. Instead, it increased his strength and continued to do so every time he was exposed to it. Ultraman was depicted as power-hungry, brutal, and without remorse. He founded the Crime Syndicate of America, an evil version of the Justice League, and conquered all of Earth. After discovering the home universe of Superman, the Crime Syndicate traveled there in an attempt to conquer it, where they were foiled by the Justice League. There have been many versions of Ultraman and the Crime Syndicate of America over the years. One of my personal favorites comes in the form of a New 52-era story arc entitled Forever Evil. Just, what a great title. It sounds like a jewelry store for supervillains. Let the homicidal maniac in your life know how much they mean to you with Forever Evil. Remember, it's not evil unless it's forever evil. The story begins when the multiverse barrier is weakened during Apocalypse War. The Crime Syndicate travels from its home on Earth 3 to do what villains do and take over the world. Forever Evil is worth your time. Number 3. Darkseid Superman. A lot of these stories are based on the idea that had Superman landed somewhere besides Smallville, things would have played out very differently. So, what would happen if he didn't land on Earth at all? In John Francis Moore's Superman The Dark Side, Kal-El landed on Apokolips and was raised by Darkseid. Again, this Superman isn't necessarily evil, but he does do some very evil things as a pawn of Darkseid. Superman helps destroy New Genesis, but in the end turns on Darkseid and uses the power of Earth's yellow sun to defeat him. The story was first released in 1998, and Darkseid Superman's armor, which somehow gives him power via geothermal energy, is one of the most 1990s looking things that you will ever see. Number 2. Overman. The original version of Overman came about in Grant Morrison's Animal Man number 23 in 1990. Overman was the result of government experiments, and the other heroes on this version of Earth were all modified clones made from Overman's cells. Unfortunately, he contracts some sort of sexually transmitted disease, and it causes him to go insane. So yeah, that was a thing that happened. Overman murdered everyone on this version of Earth and then decided to commit suicide by setting off a doomsday bomb. All this was presented in the form of the Psycho Pirate's memories as he brought back characters who were killed off in the crisis. He tries not to bring Overman back, but can't make himself stop thinking about him. Overman is brought back, but ultimately defeated in a display of disregard for the fourth wall that puts Deadpool to shame. The other version of Overman, also created by Morrison, has a lot in common with the Superman depicted in Red Son. He too was from an alternate universe, but instead of landing in Soviet Russia, this time Baby Kal-El landed in Nazi-occupied Czechoslovakia. So Red Son was about a communist Superman, while Overman was about a Nazi Superman. Kal-El is discovered by the Nazis and raised by Hitler himself. Hitler, inspired by a Superman comic book, oddly enough, renamed him Overman and used him to win the war and take over the world. There's not much to say about this one, except that it's really depressing. Moving on. Number 1. Injustice Superman. Was there ever any doubt in your mind about this one? Whether this version of Superman is the most evil is debatable, but I still feel like this series deserves the number 1 spot on the list. It's just that good. Not only was 2013's Injustice Gods Among Us a great video game, it was also a fantastic comic series. A prequel spanning the 5 years before the events of the game, this is my favorite alternate Superman series and my favorite complete story from Comicstorian. This story begins in an alternate universe, big surprise there, where the Joker tricks Superman into killing Lois Lane. Spoiler, he didn't take it well. If you've ever wondered what would happen if you mixed Mortal Kombat and DC Comics, well, now you know. It's called Injustice. And with the 2017 run of Injustice 2 completed, it's the perfect time to get caught up on this wild ride. # not sponsored. But this video is brought to you, in part, by our wonderful patrons on Patreon. For a couple of bucks a month, you can get a credit in every video, chat with me directly, or even get a video made on a topic of your choice. Just go to patreon.com/fancyteeth. So, Superman's history is littered with alternate versions, but one thing seems to remain the same. Every evil Superman seems to always believe that he's doing the right thing and fighting for truth and justice. I think that says something about the character. It's a lesson that we can take into our own lives to better understand ourselves and maybe even better understand the people that we don't like very much. This video is also brought to you in part by Amazon.com. Get tons of free trials, great deals, and product recommendations, as well as promo codes for up to 80% off and free books from Audible. If you see something that you like, you can buy it or anything else, and this channel will get a cut. Just go to Amazon.com/shop/fancyteeth or click any of the Amazon links in the doobly-doo. Until next time, please click subscribe and ring that bell so that you get notified when we release a new video, and please share this video on sites like Reddit, Facebook, and Twitter. If you didn't like this video, then let me know by clicking the thumbs down button, and likewise, if you did like it, hit thumbs up. And a super special thank you to Bo Smith, Ken Steep, Lauren Alexandra, Rachel Dallas Fort Worth, Sincerity, the Almighty Father of Lies, and of course, praise be upon the patron saint of Fancy Teeth, Sleepy Hollow, forever and ever. Amen. Please be kind to each other. I'm Jay Parks.